What is your philosophy around having your unmet needs met? I ask this question because often there's a lot of confusion around meeting your own needs and having other people meeting your needs. But to make it simple, I'm going to at least explain this in three main chunks. Number one is the responsibility for identifying your unmet needs is yours. Okay, so you have to do the work of realizing what makes you happy, what makes you tired, what are you good at, what do you need help with, all of these kinds of things. That is your job to find clarity on. The next step is, after having found and identified your unmet needs, is moving into step two. How much do you fulfill your own unmet needs? And when do you need to ask somebody else to meet you with your unmet needs? And adding on to that, step two is, when is it okay or not okay to fulfill or meet somebody else's unmet needs? As we know that people who don't tend to take care of themselves well, so self-care is an issue, it's very easy for those people to try and draw others into fulfilling their unmet needs. And that's why I work on step one, which is, can you identify them? Right? And then into that step two, which is, how much are you fulfilling your own unmet needs yourself? Okay, now there's also a limit to that, because once we're in a relationship, and I mean a more intimate one, perhaps with a partner, that is where now, how much do you share and ask the other to fulfill your needs, and how much do you fulfill theirs? So you have to do step one, and then you have to start thinking about step two. What is reasonable, and how do I do it? Like, can I say, hey, you know what, I just had a really long day. Is there any chance that you could nip out and grab the takeaway? Okay, so something like that is just a silly and simple example of when you would request somebody else to take or share the load in a situation. Now, step three gets a little bit more tricky again, because this is a deeper philosophical question about how do you meet somebody's needs, and when do you, and should you? Okay, so I've mentioned in step one, yes, definitely very easy and cut and dried. Take responsibility for identifying what your needs and unmet needs are, and then filling them up as much as you can yourself, right? And then we go into, well, now if we're in a relationship with somebody else, how do we figure out whether it's reasonable to ask that person to help us? And is it reasonable, again, for us to help somebody else out when they are struggling? Where are these lines? There's a lot of confusion I see around empathy when it comes to what do you do with that empathy? So yes, we see people struggle, but then what should one do? This can be tricky. It depends on the person, their age, what's actually happening. So figuring out what to do with that empathy and whether one should be meeting somebody's unmet needs, this is a whole philosophical debate, but it's one worth having, and it's one worth thinking about, because without that, you can very easily trigger patterns from your past about being a caregiver and feeling that sense of value through caregiving, right? So if you have problems with boundaries and you identify as a people pleaser, I've given you some help with that step one of identifying your unmet needs. And then number two is filling them up as much as you can. And then moving into three, which is again the tricky part, which is the philosophy around, once you are meeting your own unmet needs very well, then what? How do we participate in relationship, and what do we do when our needs and requests for meeting our needs are ignored? Right? So have a think about that. If you want any help with it, of course, get in touch. I do have a course about boundaries coming up at the end of this month, January the 29th. So look in the description or the bio underneath to get the link, and we can get you signed up and in the program and starting in January, end of this month. And yeah, in 6 weeks' time, you could be in a much better place and have much better understanding about your own needs, how you communicate them, and what you can realistically and healthily expect from others to give to you and for you to give to others. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Bibi Eastwood, healing strategist, life coach, and helping people with boundaries and dealing with these difficult, complex topics. Thanks. Bye.